Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, my name's Edward Montgomery. I'm the Chief Strategy and ESG Officer. Dan, unfortunately, can't be with us today. But I've got 10 minutes. I'll run through our presentation, which was updated out today, along with an updated corporate video on one of our development assets. So Hummingbird's a London-listed, West African-focused gold producer, developer and explorer. We have three key assets in the West African region. You can see here we have a producing asset called Yanfolila in Mali, which is in its 5th year of operation, with a forecast production of 87 to 97,000 ounces for this year. We have our second soon-to-be producing asset called Kouroussa in Guinea, which is in construction. Officially started construction in January. And now we're into the civil works programs of that, with first gold pour scheduled for the end of Q2 2023. And then we've got a very large exploration asset in Liberia, which was actually where the company started its 10 years ago. And that is a very imminent DFS to be issued probably in the coming weeks by a joint venture partner called Pasofino, who are also here today. That's a very big asset, 4 million ounces. With a DFS soon to be produced. So that's our key assets. I'll run through these slides. In particular, I think maybe talking quickly about our management team, some very credible senior management teams from big name operations, and also some very experienced operators in terms of, say, finance, but also operating assets in the region that have done a lot of exploration, but also taken assets from exploration to development to construction. In terms of our resource and reserve base, we've got a significant resource and reserve base for a company of our size. We put an updated reserve statement out last November of 1.12 million ounces. We did 68,000 metres of drilling last year at our Guinea and Mali assets. And we have an updated reserve statement out and resource statement out end of Q2 in June, where we expect an uplift to that reserve number. So we've got quite an extensive reserve life on all our assets. Our game plan is to get a reserve life of 10 years minimum on each of our assets that we currently have. At Yanfolila, that's currently 700,000 ounces, which is the producing asset. At Kouroussa in Guinea, it's 400,000. A maiden reserve, but we expect to uplift on that. And then, as I said, our Dugbe Liberia asset will have a DFS out on that, where we expect another reserve uplift. In terms of our growth platform, probably one of the key slides in the pack is this is an organic growth platform or expectations over the next 2 years. As I said at the start, our 2022 guidance is 87 to 97,000 ounces. 1,300 to 1,450 AISC. It's a higher AISC, but we expect that to come down, in particular as Kouroussa and Guinea comes online, which I said is going to schedule to come online in Q2 2023. We expect that asset to do circa 120 to 140,000 ounces in its first 3 years, and then roughly 100,000 ounces going forward. And that's where you see that uplift in particular in 2024, and that'll start to generate multiple cash flows for the company in particular in that year and next year. It is financed. We have a circa $100 million debt facility with a group debt facility with Kouroussa Bank, which helped fund us Yanfolila, which we paid back in under 3 years on time and on budget. Very supportive West African bank that have helped, basically fund Kouroussa going forward. So we're on time and on budget at the minute. We obviously every day counts to get that next asset online, and that's still on target to come online in Q2 next year. Just to be aware that the 23 and 24 are not guidance estimates but forecasts, hence you get the variance in those numbers. In terms of cash or catalysts, as I said, Q2 is probably one of our biggest things coming online for both Yanfolila and Kouroussa in terms of reserve and resource update. End of Q2. In particular for Dugbe in Liberia, we've got a DFS due to be released pretty imminently from our joint venture partners at Pasofino. And then you'll look to see regular updates, in particular, I think, from our construction asset, Guinea, as it ramps up. In particular, the civil works that are happening now, moving into that first gold pour and end of Q2 2023. Just some of our ESG credentials. Probably the most poignant thing is we are a member of the World Gold Council. We adhere to what the RGMPs, or the Responsible Gold Mining Principles, and we will have this year 3 is a more forensic auditing external process that they go through, which makes us sort of forms a baseline for our ESG credentials as one of the key things that we're focusing on. In terms of assets, I'll run through these relatively quickly. People ask us why West Africa. Basically, there's a lot of gold in West Africa, point and simple. I mean, in Guinea, the Segiri region in particular is, I think, probably going to be one of the highest growth gold areas the market's seeing in the next coming years, and we've got a very good foothold on that asset. We've got a very high grade reserve base above 4 grams a tonne, open pit, and there's plenty more to come in that region. So we're excited to be in that region. It does have difficulties in terms of the region, but we've got very good country managers that look after it and manage the situations on the ground. In terms of Yanfolila, I'll maybe go to this chart. As I said, we're into year 5 of our operations. Got 4 pits there. I think the key thing for us is life of mine extension. Got, as I said, 700,000 ounces reserve. We'd like to see that increase. And the key thing for us is there's underground mining potential in one of our key operating pits, which will start to finish off early next year. And we're expecting, we haven't put it in yet, but we expect to go underground in particular for that asset. And that asset has 200,000 ounces reserve with upside. And we think that'll form a nice base load production profile for that asset for years to come. So we expect to see that asset continue on for that sort of circa 8 to 10 years from today's level, providing a nice cash flow balance for the future of the company. I'll flick through to probably Kouroussa, given the timeline here. That's our asset that's coming online next year. You can see here the production profile estimates that we expect from that asset. The yellow ones are where we expect to do further exploration. But it's a pretty enviable asset that we've got hold of in terms of the reserve base and that grade profile. Above 4 grams a tonne open pit with underground potential. We see upside in that. And a very high returning asset that one is once it gets in production. We expect that to paybacks roughly in 2 years. IRRs are very high, and particularly given the grade and the production profile we see in the first 3 years of that asset. So we're excited about that, and that's moving ahead, and that'll take the company to a next leg in terms of its growth platform. Here is the timeline. We're on target. I've mentioned that in terms of first gold pour. And here's a couple of sort of visuals about the asset. Civil works have begun. That's the cement pouring capabilities on site. We'll start finalising the earthworks at the camp, and the foundations will go in before the wet season. So it's definitely going into a very advanced stage now in terms of its putting up the processing plant to get us to that timeline. And that's a bit of a visual of the area. It was bought from a previous owner, but we've got hold of the assets which have, some of the deposits haven't been drilled out, and there's a lot of sort of legacy equipment that's already on in the platform for us. Here's a couple of charts in terms of exploration. Extensive drilling's already been taken place, and we've done another layer of that, and we're very confident in the sort of the geology base that we've got hold of here. As I said, we think there's reserve upside as well. In terms of Dugbe in Liberia, I'll finish off here. I think the main thing really is this is a big asset that we have hold of for the size of the company. And there's a PEA that was out last year, and then now there's going to be a definitive DFS out on this asset relatively short period of time. And I know that Pasofino's CEO is going to be talking about that later. And that's probably exciting, taking that to an economic value asset from a exploration asset, and we'll look to create big shareholder value performance of that asset going forward. And in summary, we're a producer. We've got financing package running us into a second producing asset, taking us to 200,000 ounces within the next 12 to 18 months. and we've got a big asset with a DFS delivery in the short period of time. If you want to see us, we're just over there in J4. Happy to take any questions at that time in those coming days. Thank you.